Good evening everyone, and welcome to Royal Television Society from Buckinghamshire New University. My name is Russell Stone and I'm the Head of School of Creative and Digital Industries. And tonight we have an invited audience and panel members to talk about inclusivity and diversity in the film and TV industry. And I'm especially delighted that we're here at our High Wycombe campus because inclusion and diversity are very much at the heart of what we do here at this university. We're very proud of our track record of providing opportunities to students from non-traditional backgrounds and to give everybody a chance in life to succeed at their passion. Our chair tonight is Martina Porter. So, I'm looking forward to a great show. Over to you, Martina.
Thank you, Russell. And just again to welcome everybody here this evening. We have a fantastic panel and today we are going to be talking about You Too Can Work in TV, opening up the film and television industry to all. So just a little bit of a background to this. I've been working around the schools agenda for about 20 odd years now, and I think we are at a point where this is a great opportunity for us to use the skills funding and all the skills initiatives to make sure that the industry is incredibly inclusive. It historically hasn't been, and it's been very hard for people to get into the industry if you don't have connections. So on the panel tonight we have Bob Clark from Mama Youth, Abhi Arumbakkam from Resource Productions, Jay Francis, who's an online editor, Jahreal Wright, you work at Sky, and Emma Smith from Naked West. So first of all, if you want to Bob, can you tell us a little bit about Mama Youth and what they do?
Mama Youth is a charity I formed back in 2005, and that's after working in broadcasting for 20 years at that time. What made me start it, somebody said there's not enough black people. I had a throwback because somebody said that to me 20 years earlier on the day I started, so I went home quite down and thinking, 20 years, nothing's changed. And so I thought, let me throw my little pebble into the water. And then I just had to think about, well, what do I do? How do I do it? And basically, I fell into TV, no qualifications. Somebody like me should never have been working in TV and doing the job I've done. But I've done all right, done well. Most of my career has been as an editor. And so I learned on the job. And I thought, if I can get young people to understand the bigger picture, because as an editor, I'll be working, you're familiar with this, I'll be working in an edit suite with somebody who's been in the business for like 5 years even, and they're bigging themselves up in the edit suite. Oh yeah, I'm in the edit suite making a show for BBC or whoever, I'm with my editor, and I'm thinking they haven't got a clue. they haven't got a clue. And so if I could get young people to understand the bigger picture and the work ethics of what goes into making broadcast TV, at the interview table, it may do them good. They may stand a chance. And touch wood, that's what happened at the beginning.
So, Jahreal, how did you get into the industry?
So I got into the industry off the back of the Mama Youth project. I was at the job centre. I've never had a job before doing the Mama Youth project or anything like that. And I asked my work coach, I wanted to do something to do with media, not knowing exactly what that entailed. So saw the leaflet for the Mama Youth project, applied, and went through that whole process of being an editor on a broadcast TV show, getting my first credit, and then going for the interview as an edit assistant at Sky, and then I've been there ever since. So.
Abhi, I turn to you now. So tell us a little bit about Resource Productions, because it's a fascinating company.
No, thank you very much. Resource Productions is a social enterprise based in Slough, down the road. Proud to be from Slough, made in Slough. For 24 years we've been running. We're a social enterprise with a mission to diversify the creative industries, and to create social change through art and through film. And we do that by a three-pronged approach. One is outreach. We go a lot into the schools and the colleges and really encouraging the young people to consider a career in the arts and to be excited about a career in the arts. That's one. And then we do training. We offer training for 11 to 19-year-olds, always free. We have a film club that's been going for almost 13, 14 years now, and it's always free. And then we also have a Script Saturday, which is a monthly meeting, again for young people, 11 to 19-year-olds. And then we put on a program of training across the year for 19 plus, for adults, really. That's one. And then we do productions, really. So we do short film content for BBC New Creatives, for Channel 4, and that's the production. So the pipeline, the young people that we may have engaged with some of the programs will then go on to get, if they go on to get commissioned, very often we produce the content. And I'm proud to say we've just produced and released our first feature film, which set in Slough, which, Martina, I believe you're going to watch on Sunday.
I am indeed.
And again, where we worked with the DWP, and it was as part of the Kickstarter scheme, we gave about 12 young people who were up until then unemployed their first credit.
Jay, turning to you now. So, how did you get into the industry?
I was slightly different. I didn't do an apprenticeship as such. I studied it in college and university. While I was in education, I did a lot of work experience. So every Easter, every Christmas, every August holiday, any break I had, I got in touch with all the companies in the Midlands, just to see if I could spend a week or a day or a couple of weeks with them. I got to work on some interesting shows, did lots of different things, radio, TV, newspapers, all sorts of things to work out what I liked. And then when I was coming to the end of my education, I got in touch with all the companies that I'd had a placement at, just on the off chance to see if there was anything that would suit me. And one of them, I remember at TV, called me up for a chat. And it turned into my first fixed-term contract. That was 22 years ago. And kind of worked my way up ever since then. So, yeah, my biggest piece of advice is do as much work experience as you can in your education. Yeah, it probably won't be paid, but you just gotta do it. You gotta making contacts. That's it. Knowing who to contact and making a good impression.
And I think you're absolutely right. Key thing is to get as much experience as possible. But I think those companies that can pay should pay. I don't think it's work experience should be seen as free labour to support people. But I'm interested, did you always want to get into working in television?
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to do something in media. So I tried out lots of different things. Like I said, I went to a newspaper, I went to a radio station, went to a graphics company, went to a corporate video company and a few TV companies. And I got dazzled by the lights of TV. And then it was just a case of working out which aspect of TV I liked. So unfortunately, the courses that I did allowed me to do to taste different aspects of TV and post seem to be best, so I've focused on that route.
Okay. And so Emma, you work with Jay. Do you want to give us a little bit of background about how you got into the industry?
Right, well, I always wanted to work in television, particularly rather than film. But it was all, when I was looking to make my start, it was pre-internet, didn't know where to start. So I still have some of the letters that I sent to blindly to the BBC, to Channel 4, not knowing. Obviously I didn't hear back from anything. But I knew a creative industry is what I was going to pursue. And that started with my art foundation, which I did at Bucks University in 95. Showing my age now. And from there I ended up doing a degree in fashion in London. And somehow I ended up getting a little small month job on Lorraine Live, covering all the fashion shows. So that was my into television, sort of roundabouts. I stayed in fashion for a while, but always knew, actually, I really liked that. I really liked the little taste of TV I had. So by then, I kind of had a little more of an understanding and knew how difficult it would be without the network, and I wanted a little bit of visibility and training when I got into TV, so I applied for any kind of training scheme that was available, graduate training schemes, this sort of thing, Channel 5, Channel 4, BBC, and I got onto a Channel 4 researcher training scheme. That was in 2003, and I was partnered with Fremantle. It was Talkback and then Fremantle, Talkback Thames, Fremantle, Boundless, Naked. And I've stayed with them ever since. Now I look after one of the BBC's flagship brands, Escape to the Country. I've been looking after that since 2015. Yeah.
What's the industry like today? So we're all coming from different aspects of the industry. What's it like if you're a young person trying to get into the industry today? What's good about it?
In terms of the content, I think it's a really exciting time. We're consuming and creating content in a way that we haven't done before, with non-linear platforms. We're seeing multiple ways of telling different stories about the same genres, be that property even, reality, property, and I just think that's maybe driven by younger people and how they are consuming. It's completely different. The viewers of my show, Escape to the Country, we watch very traditionally television at certain times, but youngsters, they can, it's on their phone any time, and it's short form, and I think there's just lots of avenues to develop that they're driving, that the youngsters are driving. We're still quite traditional in the way we're recruiting, but I think we need to evolve and adapt to really reflect the needs of the audiences and the wider audiences.
Yes, I was just explaining to somebody earlier, one of our apprentices went on to become a TikTok producer, and I think TikTok is an interesting platform,
yeah.
And the way content is created for that has certainly changed a lot of people's views. Bob, what's it like in the industry now for young people coming through Mummy Youth? Is it becoming easier?
Well, the ones that come through Mummy Youth are all right. It's the others. It's the whole industry actually. It's kind of there's so much, and I don't normally want to ruin the party, but we've got a lot of work to do. You two can work in TV. To me, that's if TV is fully inclusive. If we're fully inclusive, that's anybody, and we shouldn't exclude. But in inclusion, a lot of times we actually exclude as well. I mean, it's things like we don't use the word diversity. We stopped using that a long time ago because people would ring us and say, I'm looking for a diverse person. Diverse person? What's a diverse person? Oh, you mean a black person? Oh, I get it. We got partners that stopped using the BAME term a long time ago, before COVID even, and explaining that, black minority, Asian ethnics, and black Yeah, black, Asian, minority ethnics, we just knew. Again, that was a label that was referring to black people again. I don't know what's wrong with the word black, but anyway, it was referring to black people again, and we said that under that label, companies have been getting away with it for years. Our Bain figures aren't too bad, you know. Of course, we can do more, but it's not too bad. And then you go into a company, and it's all South Asian. The black people and East and Southeast Asians people have been hidden on that label for years, and so, you know, this inclusion is everybody, and so, but it's hard work. Our 750 alumni tell us the stories, their experiences in the industry. We know whatever companies say, we know exactly what's going on in the industry because of the stories that our alumni tell us. But, you know, we're prepared to work at it and get more into the industry. The more people we can get into the industry from different perspectives and different backgrounds, the more representative we will be. So we attack it from that route by getting people into the industry, but we also work with all our partners, including Fremantle and you know, others, and to actually support and help to make our industry more inclusive. I mean, authentically inclusive.
You bring up a really interesting point, and Jahreal, I wanted to ask you, because you said that you found out about Mama Youth through the Job Centre. So, you know, do we need to do more in schools to help people understand that this is a career route, this is a potential career route for everyone? And I think if, you know, can we get in at schools? What more could we do at that level?
In school, you're talking about like secondary school? Or?
Yes, at secondary school. Did anybody ever talk to you about a career in film and television at school?
I can't say they had, no.
Do you think it would have made a difference to you if they did?
Potentially, but I think it's one thing telling somebody something and it's another thing showing them. So I probably could have been told, but like I said, until I got to Sky and saw a server room for the first time, saw an edit suite, saw how the mechanics behind the words actually worked, it didn't really click. So I think it's more seeing than just telling people, oh, this is this and this is that.
And Abhi, you work a lot with young school-aged children. Are you seeing a difference? Are they more interested in how to make content? Are they learning more about it in school? And is there something more that we could do?
Before I answer that, I'm just going to add to what Bob has said. When we talk about diversity often it's only thought of in terms of ethnicity. We like to think of diversity as not just ethnicity, but also ability, but also sexuality, but also socio-economic backgrounds, but also about age. And diversity can come in all shapes and forms. And in order for the industry to be truly inclusive, it needs to widen its understanding and its definition of diversity. We've had so many calls from people saying, can we have a diverse crew? And we know exactly what you said by that. And we kind of dig a little bit more to get them to admit to what they mean by diversity, and it's inevitably a race-related thing. But going back to your question, there is something very, very important about educating the educators. Young people learn more from TikTok than they do from their careers advice person. Unfortunately, the careers advice person rarely ever mentions the screen industries as a career option for the young people. You go into the DWP, the job coach very, very rarely talks about going and, you know, doing a runner's job, or even knows about where to go for a runner's job or an entry-level job for the person, because there is lots of transferable skills that some of the people they have that can be used, that comes in very handy in the screen industries, but they don't know of it. So it's very important to educate the educators. The young people that come to us, very often they have found us through social media, not through the schools or something that they have. We go a lot into schools, and they're very excited. And again, when you ask them, what kind of a role do you foresee? It's always, you know, they see the top 10, you know, the directors and the camera persons. They don't think about the stage managers, or they don't talk about runners, or they don't talk about, the sort of the nuts and bolts of the industry. They talk about the top end. So yeah, there is a lot of interest, but there is a real genuine need to educate the educators so that they can signpost more young people towards the industry.
Can I just add? I remember my career advice session very clearly. And I said that I'd like to do something in the media. And she said to me, I think you should do a life skills course.
It's definitely an issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm throwing this open to the entire panel. What, Bob, you've obviously encountered some issues with this.
Well, it's it'd be 18 years now. And we're kind of in a time capsule. I was thinking about this. We're in a time capsule because the average age that we have is, 23, 24. And so seeing over those years, because we're working with the same age group, and we see things like the growth in mental health is incredible amongst young people. The expectations has grown to not realistic expectations, and I think that's a big thing that has to be managed when you say educators, but everyone within our industry. When you meet a young person, you've got to manage expectations, their expectations, not to send a CV. You've just come out of uni or whatever, and you call yourself a director or a producer, or no, you're a new entrant. It may be runner and stuff like that. But to understand the route to where you want to go, to understand the difference between editorial and production, and then the crafts, to understand all that. And so certainly education-wise, people do need to be managed in their expectations.
Is that something that you see?
Absolutely, I think that's key. We hear a lot about your intentional self and manifesting what you want to do in life, but actually I think really starting out in the industry, I wouldn't limit yourself. I'd really be open to all the opportunities, and then the more experience and credentials you get, the stronger your foundation, and you might rise more slowly, but it will be solid, and you'll have longevity, because this is, it's not a 9-to-5 career. It's very much a vocation. But Bob's absolutely right. Managing the expectations of people coming in. I mean, I still don't really know what I want to do, and I think it's quite exciting. I meet plenty of people who've been in the industry as long as me, and they're sort of talking about leaving, or I've had enough and everything. And I still think I'm just about getting going, And I think that's maybe because I didn't have a clear path. If you have a clear path, great, follow that. But I think I'm sort of open and excited about what there might be.
I get that, because, look, it's been 40 years maybe, I don't know, a long time in the industry. But what a great industry. I still come into a studio like this and go, wow. I think this is so impressive. And I've been here so long, but it's different. It's so impressive. And that's part of my motivation as well for trying to get more people in from backgrounds that are not normally in this industry to experience the love I have for the industry and to be excited. And it's hard work. That's the other thing they've got to find out. It's hard work. But would you want to do anything else? Mm-mm.
And could we be doing more to help people, because it is long hours, because it's location work and all the rest? Is there more that we could do to help support people to have that more inclusive workforce?
I would say there can never be enough. Earlier when we were talking about it, you mentioned it's not a 9-to-5 job role, but then when it's not a 9-to-5, what happens when a person has childcare? I mean, there's not nearly enough wraparound childcare, and I know, when my children were little, it's so expensive, but you need to keep them in childcare in order to hold the place. But then when you don't have work, when you have work coming, when you don't have work coming, how are you going to pay for that childcare? And it's not cheap, and you have to have wraparound childcare. And those conversations are only now, getting talked about. Only now. And my children are all grown up, but it's so frustrating, and that there is no acknowledgement of it. And it's just, miraculously children grow up. I mean, what happens when you have caring responsibilities? And we know of a lot of people who have taken time out, and when they come back, they're no longer young, or they're not looked upon favorably. They've lost a few years. So that's why I mean, when I say diversity, it has got to include age. It's very crucial. People who have taken time out for caring responsibilities, they have life experience which they can bring to the job. And that's got to be something we really need to acknowledge and accommodate.
And, we're hearing the barriers, but also, what are the positives about working in the industry? Because, Bob, you said we love doing it. So, what's the one thing that kind of keeps you getting up in the morning, knowing that you've got long hours?
There's positives, but the barriers are there. Mm-hmm. There are many barriers to entry. It's getting into the industry. Once you're in the industry, then doors open and things, but it's getting into the industry. And there's so many things. I mean, one of the things that we worked very hard years ago was, recruitment. Loads of CVs come in, and there's so many CVs. So what can we do to cut down the CVs? Oh, they don't need a driving license for this particular role, but put down they need a driving license. That's just a whole heap of people gone. But that's a barrier to people from lower income families. There's, we've had people be in interviews and be told in the interview, more or less like, well, we like to go to have drinks after work in the cocktail bar down the road. And we like to do this, and we like to do that. And what they was basically saying to this young girl, that's not you, is it? You won't fit into this company. And we hear so many stories like that. So the barriers are there. And you know what? If you're talking about black people, for me, from my experience and others that I talk to, it's got worse since George Floyd. It's actually got worse. And why is that? I've never understood with our industry, because I didn't do education. I dropped out of school at 15. No education whatsoever. But to me, where's the common sense? This year we're thinking about disability, so it's all about disability. Next year it's about race and black, and next year it's about LGBT plus Q, and then next year something else. By the time it gets back to whichever, 4 years later, any little progress is gone. I don't understand why we can't just do it all at the same time. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't get it.
So we're not fixing the problem, we're kind of sticking a plaster on it. Do the rest of the panel feel the same?
I'm interested to say you said it's got worse since George Floyd. Do you think that's in terms of representation or attitude or how people are welcomed?
I think in representation, people may have the representation.
Do you think?
But the thing is, when you employ somebody, whether they be from whatever minority group or from whatever group, they take on the responsibility on their shoulders for that whole group within their company. And that's a big thing to put on somebody. Mm-hmm. It's not done so much these days, but a few years back, companies would we just need people of colour, say. Get people in, go to the local college and get people in. You get the wrong person, because we say talent first. Talent always first. You get the wrong person, then that person may reinforce stereotyping. Of course they're like that because of their... So it's got to be the right person. And you know what? There's many right people out there. When they say there's not enough writers, there's loads of writers. It's looking for them, and outreach. Outreach is a big one. Outreach, inviting people to the table. If you're not inviting them to the table, then how are they going to know about working in our industry?
You're right, the pressure to represent and get it right as a minority in senior management is huge. It's quite immense. And then, you know, all focus is on you. So outreach in my office, I always feel my job isn't as an outreach officer, but it's what I do as well as my job. And yeah, I mean, to some degree of success. But no one else is doing it unless it directly affects them. You know, they're doing it if they're paid to or told to, but it's not something they're conscious of. And outreach is the only way that we can increase representation in our workplaces. I mean, we've had some degrees of success in the past couple of years. It's really changed the past couple of years, but there's so much more work to be done. Especially at senior, you know, it's all levels. You know, you can spend a year flooding the junior entry-level positions. But if you're not seeing yourself, how do you know how to rise up into the senior management positions?
I think that's really important because a lot of companies will send out. We had something you mentioned a few years ago where our company sent some people out to do some outreach, but the people that they sent out were maybe representatives of the people that they were going to talk to. So it's really important to see yourself in the position. So if you want to do the outreach, make sure that make sure that you take people from your company that represent talking to. Otherwise, it just comes across as fake. So.
And if you haven't got that person in your company, question yourself, but also don't put all the pressure on those few people in your company to do all the work. It's a balance in that, but you know, so it's conversations that need to
one of the things we are working at lately with partners, you know, the whole thing of this group. So there's this group, and this group. And see, what happens is, when, you know, if you imagine ponds, little ponds, and there's a pond of, you know, black and that, and there's a pond of LGBT plus, there's a pond of disability. Once the pond is full, we don't have to think about it anymore. And that's part to your question of why has it got worse, is because there's been a big concentration. Right, now, this is good. Look, we've done it. Now we don't have to think about it anymore. But one meeting I went to years ago when we was getting awareness for Mama Youth Project, and we had a BAFTA event, and then I was sent out as the CEO to go to these companies who showed an interest. And the first company I went to, the person said to me, "Bob, I've got to tell you straight away, our diversity budget isn't very big." And I went, "Your diversity budget?" She went, "What?" I said, "I was just thinking of your talent budget." you see what I mean? And so all the while we're thinking about that, once you feel, oh, it's okay, then you forget. And also diversity, when we stopped using it, we just said, there are diversity. Maybe the reason why, this was our 10th anniversary, maybe the reason why we've seen schemes and initiatives go up here, but the bar of impact still down here. It's because maybe you're dealing with the wrong thing, diversity. There are diverse groups within diverse groups. When you employ that person in a wheelchair, there's tens of hundreds of people in a wheelchair different to that person. And so, inclusive is just a better word.
So we've had a massive boom in production in the UK over the last 18 months, partly because the UK was very good at getting back on its feet post-COVID. We've now got production hubs from Disney, Amazon, Netflix. Is that not helping? Is that making any kind of impact? Is it easier for people to have that kind of more stable freelance career?
Yes, but there's a huge skills gap, because there are productions that don't have enough people, and they don't have the opportunity to train them up, or they can't train them up quick enough. Very often people have to train on the job, and there's no way to shadow somebody, and there's no time to train them up. So there's studios coming up, there's also productions, but there is also a huge skills gap that we are faced with.
there is a big contact list at the end of a programme.
Precisely.
And there is the internet. So if you've got a little bit of knowledge, you could be able to
So
get
get
a
to
bit
know
further.
people.
I once met a commissioning editor for Channel 4, and they said the number of people who come up and they say, oh, they never watch any television. They apply for a job and they say they never watch a television. Something as simple as, and it's probably common sense for a lot of people, like who's sitting on this panel, but it may not be so for the other people on the other side. You watch a show, watch the credits, look at the people there, look at the job roles that they're doing. You have the internet, the palm of your hand, Google, what does that job role entail? Who's doing that job? Who should I write to? Very often, it's very, it's first name dot last name at BBC or whatever. Have a go, or first initial dot last name, or just have a, play around with that, try and figure out what that email address is and shoot them an email. That can get you through the door if you don't know anybody. Go on.
I was going to say that if ever you do contact someone and they don't get back to you, chances are, it's not about you. It's most production is really hectic. So it could be that they've got the female and they've got 100 others of the things to do. So if you don't hear back, don't take it personally. Try again. Like I'm sitting people on ice, and they will respond.
You've got to
Think
find
of
a
it-
way of pestering gently.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Think of it like, an in-tray, physical in-tray, before days of computers, and you put your letter on the in-tray, and then somebody's busy, others come on top. So all you do is go along and just put mine back on top again. And people eventually get back to you, so you're absolutely right. Don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally. But Abhi was right about watching television, the amount of people I get, and even end up with interview stage, who haven't watched the programme that they're being interviewed for. Basics. You know, watch television.
Something that I learned on the Mummy Youth Project. You can't go for a job in television and you don't watch television.
No, and even if the job you're going for isn't something that you would necessarily watch, like Escape to the Country that I make, well, your grandmother's watching. It's not necessarily for me at 3 o'clock, I'm not the audience, I'm working. But it's fantastic to make, and we're a production full of young people. So I think you need to watch widely and know what's going on. Even if you're watching 1 or 2 episodes of something, if it's not your programme, you need to know what's going on out there.
But it's a problem is with us working in it, because we say young people, oh no, we're not for you, broadcast TV, we're not for you. You watch the internet and this, and you do this and you do that. But when we are out filming with our big TV cameras, no young people have ever run up to us and said, oh, what URL is it going to be? It's always BBC, Sky, oh, wow. So there is an interest in TV, but we are not, through our content, actually supplying it. But it is there. So that's one of the things I've noticed.
I'm just going to pick up on what you said about, when you write to people cold, most people are nice. Like Bob said, most people are nice because people are just doing their jobs, and the fact that somebody, a young person, is interested in them, it often reminds you of where you were. And imagine if somebody had given them a leg up. It's just, and people will respond, but just be persistent. And they're not dismissing you because they want to ghost you or something. It's because they just haven't had the time. Something else has taken their priority. So just be persistent a little bit more.
I'd probably be quite impressed by a handwritten letter now. Actually, I've got an email. That would really take me back to me. Yeah.
Jahreal, I want to ask you, so you're on a staff contract, are you, at Sky?
Yeah.
So did the fact that you were applying for a staff job, did that make a difference to you? Did you think about freelancing?
No, I think things happened so quickly off the back of Mama Youth that I just kind of went into it, and like I do with everything, just said yes and just kind of went for it. So no, I didn't really learn about freelancing until I got into my job role and started meeting freelancers that come to Sky and do work. So.
And do you think it's made a difference to you that to have a job that isn't freelance? And do you think that's something we could look at in terms of inclusivity? Does it help?
I mean, in terms of knowing that every month I'm going to have a guaranteed paycheck and I've got certain benefits, I've got free Sky and all that kind of stuff working for Sky. So I can't really compare it to freelancing because I don't actually do it, but I'm not upset or unhappy with where I am at the moment.
I don't think anyone should be put off by it. I just think you need to understand how to deal with it. My first 2.5-ish years slightly different. They were fixed term contracts. So you still pay but it's for like 5 months or 8 months. I think understanding how to manage your finances at the start would be very helpful. So understanding that, right, you're going to get paid £1,000 a month or whatever, but at the end of the 6 months, I've got a gap of 6 weeks. I need to prepare for that. I think having a bit of awareness of that from the outset would be helpful.
A bit more planning.
Yeah.
Removing some of the fear.
Yeah, I still need to do that. I still do that now. But it's not. You shouldn't let that put you off. You just need to manage it.
I feel that there's something I don't think I've said publicly before, but the industry's got to stop doing it. Not renewing contracts until the day before. Some people don't know, I don't know if my contract's going to be renewed again. And they tell the day before, oh yeah, we're renewing your contract, we're giving you another 6 months or whatever it is. Or, oh no, we're not. And to young people, and I said about mental health, anxieties grow. How can you live where you're in your TV job and, yeah, I'm on a contract, well, yeah, are they renewing it? I don't know. But doesn't it run out?
One of the things, whenever we get new people, please, in post, I'll tend to say to them, as soon as you start your job and you've got your contract and you know your end date, start looking for your next job. It doesn't matter what might happen here, just prepare. Say, right, I know I finish on the 31st of July, get your CV out, get people aware, start making contacts for that gap on the next thing. Because if you don't want to get to a week before finishing and go, oh, there's nothing there, and I've got no cash.
But it's the pressure on the young person, well, that means they offer me the contract and I've got to let them down. And there'll be people that make them feel, oh, what? So you got another, and they feel the pressure of letting people down. And it's unfair of people also to do that to a young person as well.
The freelance hustle is probably one of the biggest stresses for people working in the industry.
It's probably the biggest part of the job, dealing with that.
And then you're comparing yourself to others. What are you doing? When do you finish it? And it just creates a sense, that sense of insecurity about everybody. Or
as a freelance editor, I said yes to everything, and I just worked myself into the ground. I looked at my diary one day, trying to fit in another job because you say yes, and I said this is the diary of 2 people working, because you just say yes because you don't want that pressure. And even when you're working, hey, I'm working, but what if I'm not?
Which also then feeds into the mental health issue you're talking about, because you get burnt out, and as an industry, we've not been particularly good at looking after our crews because they're freelance and they move on to the next job and it doesn't become our problem anymore. So, what can we do then to help our freelance community? Because it is a predominantly freelance industry. What can we do to help manage the freelance life, and also to make sure that people are looking after themselves?
There are initiatives put in place. It's been a big thing, mental health and welfare. Recently, there's been loads of webinars and talks and guidelines. But with all these things, it's on the ground. Are people being treated well on the ground by people? And still there's too many stories of people being quite rough with people.
You can bet the welfare officers aren't on freelance contracts.
Good point. Good point.
I think
HR, freelance, they're
Yeah.
all those.
Yeah.
So it's
I think if what helps, certainly for me, I think what helps is when a company embraces its staff, and even if you are there for a couple of weeks, you're really made to feel welcome, and you're invited to the night out, and just if a company embraces you. That can take away the anxiety and the stress of it.
well, that's why we've worked where we're working for quite so long, because we've got so many horror stories,
Yeah.
and we've got to a position where we can, we're in a smaller office, and we've changed the culture, and it's very
That's great.
warm, welcoming and inclusive.
This company's doing good things, but there's still a thing of it's excluding somebody who joins the company or the office. There are things like, we hear this, it's just case studies that we hear, where one, if you're of colour and there may be colleagues, they're only here because of their colour, the company's just tick boxing, and so the welcoming isn't so good as it should be, because there's a bit of resentment, especially if one of their colleagues that they normally work with didn't get the contract this time and this person of colour walks in, or this disability or whatever it may be, and that's actually quite a big one, because people go on and work on the X Factor, then they go and work on Get Me Out of Here, and you get groups of people that like working together. Yeah, it's fine, but when somebody new comes in, we've had one of our alumni go into a company, nobody was talking to her. And then she's talking to the coordinator, who was listening to music or something, and she turned the music up. And this alumni rang us and said, I don't know what to do. They're not talking to me. And we get this a lot. Well, from our white trainees, that's a common thing, where they might be taken as white middle class and come from the same background as the others in the office. The most common thing we hear is, once they realise I wasn't from the same class, the shutters came down, and isolation. And how does that manifest? They're all going to the bar and you haven't been invited. They're all doing this and you haven't been invited. And you're excluded. It's a common story that we hear.
Let's kind of end on a positive here.
Yeah.
Can we all maybe give a top tip to people? We've all kind of come through the industry, and people like yourself, Emma, you're kind of looking at CVs all the time. So what kind of top tip? So Emma, if we start with you, what top tip would you give to somebody trying to get into the industry?
Trying to enter the industry,
Yes.
or on their first jobs.
Trying to get into the industry.
Once you're sending your CV out and your letter out, make sure you tailor it for the person who's receiving it. Don't just write round robin and send them all out. Make your reach big and wide, but look at who you send it to. You might just change the word. I love your programme, and just a little line. A lot of it can be generic, but actually make sure that it doesn't feel like it's just copy and paste to the next one.
Okay. Jahreal?
I would say stay on top of learning, because technology and everything is changing so rapidly. There's always pockets to get in. So if workflow has gone out of date and there's this new thing in place, if you can jump on that, everything that's kind of happened beforehand, it kind of matters. But if you've got the knowledge for the new thing, then you can kind of have an entry point and kind of get in that way.
Jay?
I'd say to be persistent and to a certain extent, don't give up. Because then we need, this is the industry that needs people. We need talent. So don't give up.
Yeah, a lot of resilience needed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Abhi?
I'd say be curious. Be curious. Watch the credits. Find out what different roles are. Keep your mind open. Go explore. Find out what that job entails. Find out who's doing it, and keep an open mind. And look them up on LinkedIn. Look them up. Look for jobs on Monday. Go on Talent Manager. We've got a project called Berkshire Film Office. Look for all the jobs, and find out what it entails. Be curious.
Bob?
A network for me, I mean, face to face. Get a face to face. Get in people's face. Whether it be contacting from a credit list, whether it be looking and saying, oh, what's going on? I'm going to go to that. I'm going to go to this. There's RTS Futures, which is a brilliant event. But there's different events. Just go to them and get your face in front of people, because it really is who you know. In general, there's not many jobs. It's really small percentage of jobs that are advertised, and that's because recruitment costs too much money. And if somebody, I have to put staff to recruitment, and there's money, and I might not get the right person. And so, if I can say to somebody, "Do you know anybody?" Yeah, I do. Okay, tell them to come. I've just saved myself a whole heap of pain. And so it's who you know. So get in front of people, really get in front of people and network.
And quite often, because as you say, it's not just recruitment, we might be needing someone on Monday and I only know today.
Yeah.
And so, there's not the time, so we will just go, do you know anybody? May I add something as well before we finish? It is a fantastic industry. At the tail end of last year, I was doing a shoot in the Outer Hebrides. They were long days, 12 days. But let me tell you, I was looking around and all of us, we were there making some wonderful programmes with wonderful colleagues, beautiful scenery. And I had to pinch myself. Am I really getting paid to do this? After 20 years, I still have, like Bob said, I'm still wide-eyed about it. I may as well have been on holiday. I can't recommend it higher.
So have we got any questions for the panel here?
Hi there, I'm Toby from MBS Group, which is studios and equipment supply. We are desperate to encourage a more diverse applicant range, and we feel that actually where we're putting our advertising out for roles, and I'd hasten to add that we're in the supply chain, which I think I would also make the point is actually a really stable part of the industry to start your career and learn your trade in. But we don't find that we're getting the range of applicants that we would really like in the area. And I just wonder if there's any advice or any tips that you can give to an employer.
It's outreach. It really is outreach, and who you're inviting to the table. You've got to go out and you've got to go out and go to groups of people,
colleges, technical courses,
youth clubs, youth clubs,
if there are
charities that are working with young people. Go out, because the talent that there is out there, you're not even thinking about TV, but it's life changing. What you do and that supply chain is life changing. From some of the people, I don't care. I could be working in the warehouse at the BBC. All I know is that, I'm working at the BBC. So it's very important, because you're doing a different job and you're in media, and it doesn't matter that it's a warehouse or other jobs, depending on who it is, because it's life changing.
Hi, my name's Kim. I work as managing editor at news production for ITN. My question was around, you mentioned George Floyd and the kind of sea change or lack thereof, and I would say Me Too as well. And I'm a big advocate for mentors within the industry, and you've spoken a lot about how you can't be what you can't see. But I know full well that some mentors are put off. I know like male-female mentors have been put off by things like Me Too, because there's a fear there. And I've read certain bits of research as well, but I just wanted to ask the panel what your insights were on that, and whether these kind of social movements have created an element of fear, particularly within leadership and mentoring and that kind of thing.
Well, you're scared to say things. You know, these days, we do an inclusion workshop, and for all different disabilities and whatnot. But on the black one, we just say we've got to get that feeling of guilt. Stop you feeling guilty, because your guilt is causing me problems. and so we do that because, you know, good people can be sincere, but when you're scared to say the wrong thing, I'll tell a very quick story. I'll be very quick. I was at an event and TV, and we're all saying goodbye to each other. And there's a Muslim girl, hijab wearing Muslim girl, and I was shaking hands. Well, good to meet you. Good. And I went to shake her hand. She said, "Oh no, I'm Muslim." And I went, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right." And I'm so sorry. It just so happened later that week, I was at an event with my niece and her friend, hijab wearing Muslim girl, and me being all clever at the end said, "I won't shake your hand." She said, "Why?" And then she gave me a hug. And so I learned from that, you know what, I'm going to be me. I don't purposely look to offend people, but if I do, educate me, tell me, and I'll be all right. And a lot of people who are scared to say things, say the wrong thing in the end, or do the wrong thing in the end, and it's got to stop.
You know, I was tying myself up in knots once when we were working with a young person who used the AAC device to communicate, and I really wanted to talk to her and not to her creative enabler, and talk to her and not ignore her because she was taking some time. And in the end, her mum said, "Oh, you know, Kitty has been excluded had a detention at college." And I said, "What for?" And she said, "For swearing." And she uses the device, she swore, and she was excluded, right? She had a detention. And I thought, this is a young person. And she was the same age as my son at that point. And I said, and there I was thinking there were all these barriers and I had to get it absolutely right, when it really was just asking, you know, am I doing anything wrong? Correct me if I am. My intention is not to offend. Tell me if I'm, you know, and it's as simple as that. It is as, and then that's when it really, for me, the problem was not, you know, it was me that was making it difficult to communicate or work with a young person who had additional needs. It had nothing to do with them.
Can I just add to the mental question that I think we were trying to ask about how difficult trying to get people to do it. Yeah. I think I've just got to be willing to communicate about all of these things throughout the mentoring process. Working together to understand each other, and usually it only takes a couple of sessions because you get to know each other. I've got mentor. It's a lady. She's white, but we kind of worked out in the first half hour that we were gonna work well together. So I'd say don't be afraid to do it. Just try it. You're gonna meet people that you don't get on with, and that's all right. Just move on to the next.
I think we're going to have to bring it to a close there, but I'd like to thank the panel here for what I think has been a really fascinating conversation this evening. And I think there's certainly some takeaways I think that we all can kind of think about. You know, whilst there are challenges, I think looking at inclusivity and looking at you know, the growth in our industry, I think if we can bring those together and we can kind of find a way to help people come through the door, outreach is certainly key, and just encourage people to have a go, to try, to send those CVs out, to look at the credits. So if we can kind of encourage people to take all those top tips on board, and I think we can certainly make some more steps in terms of making it a more inclusive industry.